Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. My name is Arlene Mukoko, and our topic is homelessness. I'm joined by Jim VarnHagen. He's the Executive Director for the New York City Rescue Mission. And we're also joined by Joe Little. He's the Public Relations Manager. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Great, great. And let's get into homelessness. Can you talk about how people do become homeless?
There's so many reasons, almost as numerous as there are people. People lose their jobs. People come to our front desk and they want to know, how can we pay our next month's rent? And so they often become homeless because of perhaps the inability to pay for that. Others have been in the streets for many years, and they would be chronic homeless people. And yet no one has really chosen to be homeless. It's the circumstances, and each one may be different. For instance, we have several military people that come out of the service and they just can't adjust back to civilian life again.
I'm glad you mentioned that there are many different types. So you're saying that it could be someone losing their job, and then it could be someone that is, has been homeless for a longer period of time. And
yes.
How do you begin to help someone or figure out, sort through what the needs are and how to help them?
Well, the basic needs that they have is shelter. So we offer them overnight accommodations. A person comes to New York City Rescue Mission, they can get a bed for 7 nights straight. And while they're there, they can determine their next steps. We offer them food, clothing. We have a medical clinic, meet some of their medical needs. So whatever their felt needs are, we try to meet those physical needs. And we also have a chapel service every night, which helps with their spiritual needs.
That's great. That sounds really great. And have you found that homelessness has changed over the last several years?
Well, in the last couple of years in particular, we've seen an increase on our services by 20 to 30%. Our food pantry in particular, which is daily to emergency food distribution to individuals of need. And then we have a monthly food pantry for families in the general neighborhood of the mission.
Oh, that's really great. And where do homeless people congregate?
That's a good question. I would tell you 15 years ago or so where they congregated in different spots in the city. And I asked that same question of a homeless person. I said, where are the homeless congregating these days? And you know what his answer was?
What?
He said, everywhere. So they have scattered across the city, and I'd say ever since the parks and the various public places have been cleaned up under Giuliani's administration primarily, people can't just congregate in one spot. They can't be in the park. They can't be in Grand Central Terminal or the ferry terminal. So they've scattered everywhere.
I'm glad you said that because, now that come to think of it, there was a time where you would see a group of them in parks, but now that's all changed. So you just never know, whether a person sometimes is homeless or not, because they kind of are everywhere.
They look like you and I.
Yeah.
Because they're from all walks of life. We kind of have stereotyped homeless people in the past, but today we've seen engineers come to the mission. We saw a homeless attorney on one occasion. People that are highly professional people that have gotten into trouble. Maybe it's alcohol, could be drugs, and they have an addiction problem, or maybe it's a mental, emotional issue, or they're simply down on their luck. And so anybody could come to us. We had a businessman that his business went sour, and he was alienated from his family. And but as he came to the mission, he sat in our chapel. The chapel service met his physical or his personal spiritual need, and he received Christ into his life, and he's a new person. His family got back together. He got employment, and it just was a wonderful outcome.
That's great. So it sounds like there are a lot of needs that sort of come up in a situation like this. It's not only the fact that they're out of a home, but many times it seems like they're isolated and they don't have a community. Do you find that that's a problem too?
Well, the bridges have been burnt between themselves and family members, and it's hard to make inroads again. I can tell you a lot of stories, but there's not time on this segment, I don't think.
No, well, you know, I'd just like to ask Joe, you know, what can the community do to help homelessness?
Homeless people, you know, home is where the heart is, and if you are heartbroken, then you are without a home. If you have hardened your heart, then you are really essentially homeless. At the New York City Rescue Mission, we love volunteers, and we love, of course, we need donations, but the volunteers are fresh people, fresh adults that come in, and they're energetic and they're interested, and you can see it in their face, and it's a newness, and people need refreshing, and this influx of volunteers. So we love volunteers, but even just if someone asks you for something on the subway, give them at least the time of day. You know, say no, thank you, and if I were a homeless person, please at least give me that decency.
Yeah, and I've heard that before. That's a great point that you're making. So just making personal contact with people.
Right, and that's harder for women and children, of course. And it depends on the situation, but so often, you know, people are looking for decency and humanity.
Okay, and I guess I could follow it up just to go further. What can an average person do when they see a homeless person on the street, Joe?
Well, they can, like I say, well, you can always buy them a sandwich, of course, and but usually there's a local shelter in New York City. Of course, there's the New York City Rescue Mission in Lower Manhattan, but oftentimes if you have a business card, so if you call the city agencies that deal with homelessness, they'll often have business cards where, you know, where the places are to get the homeless people, to direct the people where they need to go.